Welcome to the Indigenous Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today I have Mytegia Lee with me again. She is the Executive Director of Southwest Native Assets Coalition, and she's also one of our tribal liaisons for the New Mexico Tribal Entrepreneurship Enhancement Program. We wanted to get on here today to talk about wealth building and asset protection for individuals as well as for entrepreneurs and small business owners. So before we get into like the discussion and the questions, if you could just introduce yourself, Mytegia, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mytegia Lee. For those of you that don't know who I am from the McKinley County area, Manuelito, also known as Kinhuajon for my fellow Navajos that are out there. And just as Cecilia had mentioned, I am the Executive Director for Southwest Native Assets Coalition and do sit on a few boards for other nonprofit organizations that are across the Arizona and New Mexico area. And yeah, serving the UNM community with any and everything that we possibly can when it comes to mentoring and liaison work, and just making sure that we're expanding our reach in all ways possible.
Thank you, Mytegia. So just to get started, I think the first question that I want to ask is just like, what does it mean like to build wealth? What is wealth building? What does that look like? And how do you work with people to help them understand what that means if they don't already know what that means?
Okay, well, one thing I'll tell you right now is that any individual that I've come into contact with through the work that we do, not only on the liaison side, but the coalition side, is any tribal community member that we've met doesn't have a real general understanding of what asset and wealth building means, or even asset protection. Anytime I ask that question, as far as what is asset or wealth building to you, nobody has an answer. And it's not a trick question. It's just, before I get into any presentations or workshops or trainings that we do, I want to make sure that the individual either does have an understanding of what it is or doesn't. The next question that I follow with that is, do you know your credit score? Because a lot of times those go hand in hand, right? And a lot of folks will raise their hand. And so I tell folks, the next question after that is, how many of you guys have a good credit score? And we start to see that dwindle down, but it's just, setting the platform to get people gauged as to what is asset and wealth building and how does it affect me. Okay, so if she's mentioning credit, it probably has something to do with that. And then we just nosedive into what a budget is, and messages about money. That's the next question I ask everybody all the time is, what was your message about money? And I can say that about 98% of the time, a lot of folks tell me that they've never had a message about money. They've just been given simple cues about money, and which is just save your money or don't overspend, but not necessarily given any extensive talk or insight on how to do that in tribal communities. And I think that a lot of the times folks look at it as a stigma, only because you're told not to talk about how much money you have or how much wealth you have. One of the main things that they say in Navajo is behind and, like have shame and humility. So I think that folks have the hesitation of speaking about certain topics only because it goes back to the cultural messages that we receive.
So when an individual comes to you and you like go over those basics with them, and they start to get an understanding of like, credit score and all the different things that you talk about, what are some steps that you have for people to take in order to build their wealth, whether they're starting off just like with their personal finances or with their business? And what are some practical steps that people can take?
I will always go back to letting everybody know that your personal financial fitness will affect your business, simply because a lot of the times when you're extending a line of credit or you're looking for any kind of product with your bank, they do look at your personal credit. So that is always the biggest thing that I let everybody know is, extensively. I want to know what your budget looks like. And so we do a mock budget. A lot of the times I like to sit with an individual and without giving them time to think of an answer, I nosedive into that by saying, okay, how much are you spending on this? And just kind of quickly go through. That way I'm getting answers off the top of their head. And it's a real-time number of saying, okay, where are we at? On average, folks are over anywhere from 19 to about 4,000, sometimes even $7,000 in a budget. And that's just for the month. So we go over a budget in a month. And the reason why I do that is because I want folks to know where they're hiccuping. Okay, why do I have a lot of credit card debt? Why am I overspending? Why am I over budget? And why is my credit a mess right now? And when you take a quick bird's eye view at your credit, I mean, not credit, but your personal finances and your budget, and you're looking at the fact that you're overspending because you're not couponing, or the fact that you're overpaying for some items that you have, or you haven't done your research to say, okay, what can save me money? You start to gauge a person's interest of saying like, wow, that's where I'm messing up. So the biggest part of the message about money that I think that I give folks is just the accountability. In order for us to be successful in the journey of educating an individual about their personal and business finances, is talking about that elephant in the room. It's your personal spending habits and your credit score. And where are we messing up? Because if they can identify where they're messing up and they can get a visual of what that is, it's easier for you to come up with an action-based solution plan that is going to be viable for them. And there's not a one size fits all approach to finances and business owning and all of it. I mean, as an individual who deals with numbers all the time in accounting, I could tell you all the time that I'm not the best at record keeping, or hurry up and trying to get my expenses in order. And that's probably one of the biggest tasks that we have as an individual, is just making sure that we're record keeping. And it's a process. It's a process. But I think that when you have help and you have a cheerleader and you have hope, it does a lot for an individual versus just sliding them a handful of papers and brochures and saying, this is some pamphlets about the CFPB credit and your finances. Good luck, and pat them on the back. If you're giving them extensive one-on-one mentoring and counseling, you're able to monitor their spending habits. You're able to monitor their new savings goals that they've put into place. And then you're able to gauge that to say, okay, well, this is the progress that you've made in the past 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And this is how we're going to modify that new plan, because you're picking up the pace. We've gotten one collection off your credit. We've minimized your credit card debt by making sure that we're not spending over 30% of the high limit credit usage amount. Your score's gone up 30 points. So when you let somebody know proactively, okay, these are the benefits of monitoring and doing the work, it gets exciting for them. I've had clients where, after 3 months will tell me like, oh my gosh, I've saved $400 right now. And this is something I never thought I would have done. Or the collections on my account came off. My credit score is up 70 points. Or I just got the approval from the bank for that mortgage, or I just got the approval for that loan for my business. So it gets exciting. They get excited. You get excited all the way around. It's just, a knowing and understanding that everything that you're doing is right. It's paying off. We're getting there.
So let's say that there's some practical tips, or let's say that somebody has gotten, they've improved their credit score, they're starting to save a little bit of money. What are some next steps they can take? Because I know the important kind of first steps is pay off your debt, raise your credit score, make sure that your budget is actually within your means. Let's say that you've walked through all those steps with them and they're at a place where they have a budget that they're keeping to. What are some next steps that they can take in order to start building more wealth?
Next steps in order to building more wealth is find yourself a CPA if you're not good with accounting. That way that individual can take on the burden of your record keeping. And when I say record keeping, I'm talking about being extensive. We want to know how much you're spending on your internet, your phone, your mileage, your rental car fees, what you're spending on room and board when you have to travel, what you're spending on supplies, what you're spending for paying your employees, marketing, all of it across the board, because it all adds up. When we forget to track all of that, it hurts us in the event of saying, okay, well, I made a lot this year. Did you really make a lot? Or are we, we're doing good, but then we're claiming more income than we could, offset, and then we're paying back more. That's probably one of the biggest things I see all the time, because when I sit down with an individual and I ask them what their expenses are, they'll start going down the list of me like, oh, I had to purchase this, I had to purchase that, I had to get a repair, but it's not in the Schedule C. They didn't sit down and keep receipts or keep track of what they were spending. And now we're having to do an amendment, right? We're having to go back in and amend their taxes and offset because they're owing 17,000, 3,000, 5,000. And it's because we didn't record keep right. So I think that first off, find somebody that you can rely on. Do your research. There's a lot of CPAs. If you don't know one and you're in the area where I service, reach out to me. I could set you up with a few CPAs that I know. After that, the other thing that I will say is get yourself with a bank where you have a personal business development banker, a personal banker that's going to be specific for you, that is going to address any needs that you need, and that's going to advocate for you in the event that something comes up and you need a quick 50,000, you need a quick 80,000, 100,000, 200,000, and you've got to get things in line for a line of credit. Somebody that's going to be your cheerleader and also your defensive linebacker, to where they can say, okay, I'm going to go up to bat for you. I know what we need. I have everything set up. Next is going to be your asset protection. I just went to a convening with Amarin. Amarin is an insurance company. One of the main things that I learned during that event that we went to was that they do have insurance coverage for businesses. And the reason why they do have that is because a lot of the times we don't know what's going to happen with our business. I don't know if Amarin specifically offers this, but it was during a panel discussion that we had gone over. They were talking about the pros and cons of owning a business. The pros are that that your business has the potential to grow. That your business has the potential to exceed your expectations, and that you have long-term stability, right? And you could expand. And the disadvantages are, again, let's use COVID-19 as an example. We had a lot of mom and pop shops that were smaller. They were restaurants, dry cleaners. They were, just smaller shops. We have folks that are, selling simple items, and a lot of them didn't have asset protection. They didn't have asset protection, and they didn't know how to navigate through the PPP lending programs that were out there. And then in addition to that, because they didn't have a personal banker, they struggled because banks were wanting to service their bank first. So even though that PPP product was out there were not a lot of folks that knew where to go to be able to access what COVID-19 funding was out there to help them with their businesses. I could tell you right off the bat that every business I've met with so far did not apply for the PPP lending, and they struggled. Some of them were $3,000 to $20,000 in utility bills, and then over about $20,000 in their dues for their rent or their space rent. And that's where all of those monies from the government could have came in and covered that. If they had a personal banker that was ready to go up to bat for them and say, hey, I can take care of the PPP lending package right now. I'm familiar with your financials. We've got it. And then at the same time, you call your CPA and you say, hey, this is the paperwork that the banker needs. Everything is right there at the drop of a dime. You don't have to worry about anything. And in addition to that, let's say that it's not a COVID-19 situation. We're past COVID-19 right now, and you experience a setback with your business for whatever reason. There could be a plethora of reasons, but if you have insurance coverage for your business, and you're paying into a policy that could cover your payroll or your just business in general, whether it's maybe something catastrophic happened to your business itself and you need to relocate, you temporarily need to relocate. Somebody used this as an example at that event was um, the business had called them. They weren't able to service clients. They were expecting over 1,300 clients to come in that day, and they needed to know what to do. And the person was in a frenzy. The insurance adjuster was like, okay, well, your insurance policy is going to cover for you to find a new location to start servicing your clients again. We're going to get everything going. We're going to actively look for a location surrounding you. And they did. The adjuster was able to secure a temporary location for them to relocate their business and then divert all of their clients to just less than a block down the road to say, okay, this is where we're going to be at, put signs on the door, and then address the water leak that they had that had damaged the building. And insurance was covering all of that. And we just never know what's going to happen. So the asset protection, in addition to your accounting, your budgeting, getting your banking in order, all of that is on a need to do and know basis. You have to get all of that done across the board, but we don't ever talk about asset protection. And that's, let's say the event that your vehicle that you're using for your business breaks down and you're having to wait for the warranty department to get back to you, or if you've exceeded your warranty, that's an out-of-pocket expense. So if you have insurance coverage for that, and you get with your insurance company, there a lot of the times insurance, if you tell them, hey, I need you to expedite this is my primary vehicle that I use for my business, I need to get this fixed, and I need to get it done right away. You have all your documentation in order, the coverage is there. These are things that we can't forecast, but it does happen, and I'm a direct example of it. My vehicle gave out and the engine of all things was what went out. I thought it might have been something small like the starter or the alternator. And the vehicle didn't give me any indication that the engine went out. There was no oil leak. There was no big loud crack or big noise, no smoke, nothing was happening. The vehicle just totally lost power and went out. I was at the side of the road. I had warranty coverage. They covered the tow cost. And sadly, the warranty department that I was going with didn't want to honor the contract. So I had to go through my bank to say, okay, well, a new engine is going to cost $17,000. And they had to pull my credit and say, okay, do you qualify for us to cover that? And it didn't just stop at the 17,000, because then I'm getting rentals and I'm having to pay a retainer fee for an attorney. And on top of that, I had to pay a $900 fee to the state of New Mexico to get an arbitration, because that was also in the contract with the warranty company, to say if I had a disagreement with them about anything, that I would need to go through an arbitrator first. So that happened in February. Fast forward, we're in November. I'm barely coming up on an arbitration date. So in the event that something's to happen, you have coverage for all of that. Now, my insurance company told me that they wouldn't cover it only because it was the fault of it was at the fault of the dealership for using the wrong oil. So that's the reason why it's extensive. But peace of mind comes in knowing that even though I spent that money, I'm going through arbitration, I have legal representation, and I'm going to be fine. And in my thought, I'm like, I'm going to get my money back. So there's so many different things that could happen, but the asset protection portion of it is what I'm very heavy on, simply because if I didn't have warranty, I didn't have the insurance coverage, I wouldn't have been able to file a lawsuit to say, okay, well, I pay for insurance for peace of mind. So regardless of whether it's my fault or the dealership's fault, I pay for peace of mind. Same thing with the warranty department. This is what your warranty implies. And now let's backpedal. The warranty company is trying to settle with me. So that's the other thing, is that when you go through all of this, yes, it can get overwhelming. But in the event that you do pursue legal action in any situation that you're dealing with, majority of the times it's going to be a viable outcome for you. It seems like it's overwhelming at that moment, but that's the other big part about asset and wealth building, is making sure that you have asset protection, because you can have assets, you can have a building, you can have vehicles, you can have your inventory. But what happens if a fire happens, if a car accident happens, if a water break happens, or if your machine for your silk screening gives out, or whatever you're using to produce your items, you have an issue with it. you have asset protection to say, okay, the insurance company called me back. They told me to go get 3 quotes. I'm going to go buy a new mixer today. I'm going to go buy a new loader today. I'm going to buy a new whatever it is that we're using. And a lot of what we rely on to operate our businesses, they're larger ticket prices. So they're 3,000 on up to, if you're in transport or anything, on up to about $80,000 to replace anything. Anything happening nowadays, everything's electronic and whatnot. So asset protection, that's the biggest thing I could scream in anyone's ear right now, is make sure that you have adequate asset protection, and be in depth when you're looking for that coverage. Make sure that it's something that you really need, and that whoever you're getting that asset protection from is reputable, to say, okay, they're not going to fight me tooth and nail to give me the coverage. They are going to work with me, and the deductible is affordable. The monthly coverage amount is affordable. So there's a lot to know and understand, but just doing your work and knowing that it does sound like a lot, but there are a lot of places around you that can help you navigate through the coverage protection. Berger and Briggs here in Albuquerque is really good. Ameren is really good. There's a few places that I could go off the list, but I'll wait for the individual seeking that to reach out to me and ask me that specifically.
What were the two you mentioned, Amaranth, and what was the other one?
The other one would be Berger, Berg, and then Briggs, Brigg.
Oh,
So Berger and Briggs, they're a larger name out here, but I've gone to them for the business insurance, because having business insurance is just as important as having asset protection, only because the person slips and falls outside of your establishment, or you have a faulty something happening in your store. Let's say that you had a quick little leak in the roof, winter's coming and you didn't know, they walked in, they slipped, did the splits, something happened. It'll cover you across the board. So they're very reasonable. You'd be very surprised if you have a small business. You're looking at a policy that'll probably cost you anywhere from 150 to 300 a year, and it covers up to I believe $2 to $5 million of damages, which is fair. I find it very fair to pay. Where we're at is a little over 350, and that's coverage for the year. You don't have to worry about it again. Your vehicle insurance coverage every month is roughly about that price. So to pay that once for your business and know that you have peace of mind and you don't have to stress about anything involving your business is far better than saying, okay, the store got broken into. They took the cash register. They took, the square for payments. They took half the merchandise. Okay, we'll call the insurance company. We're going to get a new machine. We're going to get a new register. We're going to get, our new payment system set up. So that's just, in a general sense, whoever is helping you experience the default, help you replace your items. And it's just peace of mind. So I think that it all goes hand in hand. So don't forget one and get one and not the other. It just have them all together so that you're prepared for any situation.
and I think as businesses like start growing, it's really important to think about that, because I know a lot of times small businesses are like, oh, I can't afford it, it's too expensive. But as you're starting to grow, like it will be calculated as an expense. So
Mhm.
there's money. So you're using money, putting it back into protecting your business, and it is that peace of mind. And because you never know what could happen, and your business is an asset for
It's the biggest
yourself,
asset you
and
have.
it's wealth in itself, just the structure of your business, the reputation, like all
Mhm.
your materials, everything. So it is worth protecting, because um it's like a baby, it's your baby.
Mhm. And I'll use an example that the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center had given during a recent summit that they had. They have very large freezers, and they lease that space for those freezers so that folks can keep their items that they're selling refrigerated or frozen if needed. And if you're running a restaurant, and let's say that and this has happened, I've heard it across the board. I've heard it by restaurants where they say that there was an outage in the area, and they came in the next morning and all of their meat, all of their dairy, all of anything that could be refrigerated and frozen was gone. And that's thousands of dollars worth of product that is supposed to make thousands of dollars worth of revenue for you. Um, Anything can happen, and that's in the food industry. So you can imagine, let's say that the individual is a silversmith, like we're talking, and you're traveling, because as silversmiths you have to travel, and you have your items in your vehicle. Somebody breaks into your vehicle, they take all of your inventory, and you're headed to Gathering of Nations or Southwest Indian Market, or you're headed down to Heard Museum, and that's 20, if not over $100,000 worth of product. And you come out of the gas station or Sam's Club or somewhere, anywhere you're at, and your vehicle, somebody busted the window, popped the trunk, took everything, or even your regalia. A lot of folks sell regalia. I saw a post not too long ago about an individual who had completed a very beautiful rosebud set. And that set was valued at over $12,000, and that individual put months of work into beating that entire set, and it was a total powwow regalia that somebody just up and busted the window and took the item. And not only is that person out the deposit that they were given to complete that item, but the purchasing person was now not going to receive that item. And we see it all too often. And with the amount of illegal activity that happens around us nowadays, you can't even trust to leave anything of value on the dash of your vehicle or anywhere without it being damaged. The other part is, let's use this as an example. Let's say that you had to stop at Home Depot and get some material. You ran inside to go get some 2x4s, some screws, nails, little items, and came out. All of a sudden, the whole side of your vehicle is dented. I mean, I've heard folks tell me all the time, I came out of Walmart, or I came out of here and here, and my bumper's gone, or somebody backed up into me, or something happened. Coverage is there for that. And there's liability, there's, comprehensive, there's full coverage, there's a bunch of different coverage you can have, and even itemized coverage for items that you have in your business. A lot of the times as business owners, we want our business to look the best, right? So we have this antique couch. Gallup's Coffee Shop had a rug, and it was a Navajo rug that they had made along with the pillows. Somebody broke in and took it. And those are not cheap. Those are a couple thousand to just get that set, and you want your business to look nice. And I'm hoping that she had coverage, but in my mind, that was the first thing that came to mind was like, what do you do? How do you value that? And then you want to replace it. Immediately you're thinking, I'm used to seeing that rug on the wall every day, or I'm used to seeing that 70-inch TV. I'm used to seeing that steamer. If you're in a coffee shop or anything across the board, you have it set to your liking. And it can almost devastate a person to think of what they have to pay to replace that. I mean, nowadays cell phones are well over $1,800 on up to $2,000. Laptops are about the same. So it can get pricey, and that could devastate a business. So not having the right asset protection can really put you in a predicament to where you're jeopardizing your business's stability. So in addition to just having stability of your business, having the protection to maintain that business in the event that something happens that's beyond your control. We're talking about asset protection, but all of it also goes to your health and well-being. Like, let's say that you have a situation happen and you have to close your doors for a few weeks because you just can't rely on anybody to operate the business because of health-related issues. You have protection even with that to say, okay, I do have peace of mind, and I am able to close my doors for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, and not worry about anything, but restart exactly where I started off and closed at. So that's the other big thing. So just make sure that you research that. I always tell everybody, if we're really good and we have time to get onto Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram and go through everybody's story and watch these new videos, we could take the 10 or 15 minutes to hop onto Google and specify what we're looking for and to find what we need on Google. Google is a very good resource. So I think that just hopping online and doing some research is really good. And in addition to all that, if you're starting out a small business and you're under 34,000, I highly recommend doing research on IDA accounts, like individual development accounts, only because there are a lot of programs out there that are supporting Native American businesses And if you have an individual development account um, set up, a lot of the times these organizations are starting to span toward that, to where they'll help you meet your business goals. And what that does is, let's say that you're opening your business and you have a goal to save $2,000 for inventory, and it's a 2 or a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 match program that they have. They'll give you $3 or $4 for every $1 that you put away. And let's just use the 4-to-1 match as an example. If you put away $4, um, put $4,000 away, and the 4-to-1 match maxes out at 4,000. That program or organization could, in turn around, give you $16,000 for meeting your savings goal of 4,000. So within the 2-year time frame or 5-year, whatever you decide to do, you can have thousands of dollars. That would be 20,000. That's just a smaller scope. Could be $20,000 that you have set aside for your business. And the other part is to research what dividends or what incentives banks have. What are they going to give you for you banking with them? If you open up a savings account or a CD, a certificate of deposit, or a money market account with a bank that you're banking with, what kind of dividends and what kind of interest are you going to make off of banking with them? That's the other part. You got to make your money go to work for you all the time, not just when you're operating your business, but even when you're being banked. There's a lot of ways to ensure and also grow in that silent process of when you're at home and you're asleep and you're not opening up until the next day at 8. So that's something else to think about.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think this is a topic that's really important, but that a lot of people and business owners don't think about, because we think about personal insurance, but I think business insurance is something that not every business owner thinks about when they're starting their business. They're focused on other things. So I think it's important to bring this to light and help people think about how, like, what assets they have in their business that need protection, and then that can help them determine what type of insurance makes the most sense for their business.
And in addition to that, I didn't mention this earlier. I don't know why I didn't, but as business owners, a lot of the times we're not thinking about retirement. We're not thinking about, okay, there's going to come a time where you want to retire. The best thing I could suggest, because everybody says, well, if I'm working for myself, what do I do? You can set up your own individual retirement account. It's called an IRA. Make a pretty hefty investment into that. It's very important that you do that, because you're going to want to retire. That's the other thing, is even though you're a business owner and you're happy, let's say that you have a successful bakery or a restaurant and you love it there. I'm pretty positive that at 65, your hands are going to hurt, your head's going to hurt, and you're just going to want to, go take that vacation and not worry about anything. So that's the other thing is, it doesn't matter if you're self-employed or your business is small or large, start to look into investments. And again, make your money go to work for you. The IRA accounts that they have with different banks and different entities across the board, research what the highest yield rate for that is, research what the max investment amount is going to be for you. Ask questions, and don't be excited to sign anything right off the bat. If you need a once over on anything, be extensive with people. If you're going to work with an organization or business that offers the individual retirement accounts, ask them, are you going to charge me an annual rate? Is there a fee for me starting this? And then what are the risks involved with this? And do I have asset protection in this for, let's say that I invest over 30 or 40,000 within the first year? What's the average return rate? Or in the event that an investment's made and I end up losing money, is there coverage for that, to where I don't take a hard hit, I'm back at square one and I lose my entire investment? So these are questions to ask, not just to get too excited about everything. And the same thing with the insurance. And same thing with your CPA, everything across the board. We've got to ask questions. We don't just look at it and say, hey, it's like going into a store and saying that box is really shiny. It looks really cool. It looks really neat. But do we know what's inside? We open it and then the item is so small. We would be mad, right? So the same thing goes for asset protection or anything else that you're looking at. do your research, and ask other business owners that are successful. Don't be afraid to ask them, because I'm telling you, any business owner that I've ever met is excited and ready to share some information with you. Anybody that I've ever asked, I'm like, so where do you go? Who do you go to? And they're like, oh, I go right down the street to so and so, they're a CPA, or anytime I need anything, I go see, and they'll shoot you a name really quick because they know that the person that they're dealing with is reputable. And just asking questions across the board. I'm pretty sure if you walked into one of these smaller shops that's around the way, like UNM, go into, let me use Roan Horse Consulting as an example. One day I called Vanessa and I said, hey, Vanessa, who do you use for coverage? And she says, for what? Healthcare, or is it employee? What are you looking for? And I gave her a list of what I was looking for. And she was very quick to say, these are the individuals that we use. And it was quick and it was easy. And that's where I started my research and landed on who I needed to get coverage from. So, it doesn't matter who it is. And if you don't know who to ask, let me know. And if I don't know, I'm always going to reach out to anybody else that I think might know, and, get you an educated response.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mytegia. I'm gonna link some of those resources you mentioned, like Amaranth, Berger and Briggs, what an IDA and our IRA is. And then if anyone has further follow-up questions, they can reach out to you, I'm sure, to me, and I can connect them with you. Because like you said, ask questions. That's why we're here. Mytegia's a wealth of knowledge on these topics, and if she doesn't know the right answer, she probably knows someone who does. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out to us. Any last thoughts or comments that you want to touch on while we're here?
Yes. If you're coming across these videos that you're seeing on YouTube, and you're coming across UNM and you're seeing this information, you hear about it and you think that it's beneficial to you, please share the information, because a big part of everybody's success is a saying that Rich Luarkey, he's a mentor that I look up to all the time, and he's done a lot of work there at UNM as well. He said it best when he said to lead the ladder down. And a lot of the times we talk about climbing the ladder of success, but we don't talk about leading that ladder down, of sharing that information that we do have, or the knowledge that we do have. And it would be a shame for a person to benefit from some of the resources that they've heard of, but also not share that knowledge and the resources that they've also benefited from. I can guarantee you 10 times out of 10, something that you've resourced or taken advantage of, somebody else might need. So if you happen to know of a fellow business person, or just somebody that might mention that they're experiencing some hardship, and about Rainforest Innovations Program, or about the Tribal Entrepreneurial Enhancement Program, or they're specific to the housing needs or financial literacy needs that we could address for them, make that referral and share what information you gained from today's podcast and the past podcasts. And let's continue to lead that ladder down and get excited about helping each other champion success just all the way around.
Awesome. I love that. That's a great quote and motto for sure. Dr. Luarkey. I always think of him, and I always think of you when about leaving the ladder down. So thanks for sharing that. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much. And like Mytegia said, reach out if you have questions, and if you find these videos helpful, you can just share them on your social media or text them to someone. That's why we're doing this, so that the info, the connection is readily available to you. All right, we'll talk to you later.